Welcome, Napa County Farm Bureau members. My name is Christina Knobloch, and I'm the Membership Director here at the Napa County Farm Bureau. We are proud to host a series of informational webinars to keep our members informed. Today, the presentation will be on the Farm Employment Labor Service Program. Please note this session is being recorded. Also, please note there will be a question and answer section at the end of the presentation. Now to begin, I would like to introduce our new Chief Executive Officer, Peter Rumble.
Thank you, Christina, and hello. Again, my name is Peter Rumble. I'm about 7 or 8 days on the job, and I want to steal every opportunity I can in venues like this to just take a couple minutes to introduce myself, say hello. Thank you very much for your membership in the organization. It means a lot to the organization and to collectively our agricultural community. So thank you. And I wanted to just let you know that we are here for you, myself and the team, for anything that you might need. We want to try to support you in every way possible. And it's not just lip service. We do want to hear from you. Anything that you need, any kind of feedback or area where you could use our support, we definitely want to hear it. But just again, want to thank you for your membership and thank Bryan for joining us today to run us through this important topic. And with that, Christina, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thank you so much, Peter. We're so glad to have you here. At this time, we would like to welcome Bryan Little. Bryan is an employment policy specialist with extensive experience in both government and agriculture and is the Chief Operating Officer of the Farm Employment Labor Service since 2009. Bryan serves as the Employment Policy Director for the California Farm Bureau, representing members on legislative, congressional, and regulatory issues involving immigration, employment, and human resources policy. Bryan served with the U.S. Department of Labor from 2001 to 2008, first as a Congressional Relations Officer, later as a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Occupational Safety and Health. Prior to joining the DOL, Bryan was a Senior Director for the Governmental Affairs for American Farm Bureau Federation in Washington, D.C. We are so happy to have Bryan here today to share the benefits of the Farm Employment Labor Service Program. Thank you, Bryan.
Christina, thank you for that warm welcome, and I'm happy to be here, have the opportunity to be here with you. And Peter, welcome aboard. Happy to have you at Napa County. We've always had a great relationship with Napa County, and happy to have the opportunity to meet you. So my job here today is to tell you about Farm Employers Labor Service. I've been running FELS now for about 15 years, and we are doing a lot of interesting things that I think your members will find helpful and beneficial. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it is that FELS does so that your members can understand what it is we can do to add value to their operations. All right. Let me explain what FELS is. FELS is an affiliated company of California Farm Bureau. We were created in 1970 to assist agricultural employers in compliance issues with the ever greater growing list of things that they were required to be in compliance with. You might remember there was a time not that long ago when farmers were generally thought of as small family operations, and all the things that employers would have to do would be just things that wouldn't be appropriate to them. That started to change around 1970, and Farm Bureau created FELS to help farmers cope with that. You probably know that California ag is different from ag in any other state. A very large percentage of California farmers employ enough people to make the kinds of regulatory and legal requirements that apply to other employers apply to them as well. Things like workplace safety and health and safety regs. FELS initially worked to help California ag employers respond to the rise of UFW efforts to unionize California farm employees. And we did a lot of work in that realm, helping ag employers be responsive to that. In recent years, we've expanded our scope to include things like workplace safety and health, wage and hour issues, workplace civil rights, discrimination and harassment, mandatory leaves, and other employment-related issues, because in California, even the smallest employers and even the smallest farm employers are considered to be employers like any other, whether you're talking about the state or very large corporations in big cities. just to try to explain how we fit into the California Farm Bureau world as an affiliated company, our job is to try to add value to what California Farm Bureau does for our members and to provide additional incentives for people to consider becoming members of the Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau owns FELS, and Farm Bureau is our sole shareholder. And our goal is always to return value to Farm Bureau and to all of our members and to help add value to Farm Bureau's mission. And in the future, we're going to be looking to add value to our brand with new efforts like H2A program services aimed at our smallest growers, partnerships with timekeeping and payroll services focused on eliminating the need for paper records, have them be internet-based and app-based, and generally trying to find ways to help farm employers alleviate their pain points. And by the way, we're always open and always interested in feedback from real live, real world farmers about what their problems are and what we might be able to do to help. So some of us are old enough to remember Captain Kangaroo and Mr. Green Jeans. And I always like to joke with people that farmers in California, farmers everywhere really, but in California too, a lot of them, and especially the average Farm Bureau member, are a lot like Mr. Green Jeans. He was the farmer on Captain Kangaroo who was there to help kids understand what really happened on farms, where their food came from, all that sort of thing before it was really popular to worry about educating people about where your food came from. And if you remember Captain Kangaroo, you might be a lot like him, where your left front pocket of your green jeans jacket is going to be accounts payable, the right front pocket is going to be accounts receivable, and the left back pocket of your green jeans is your HR department. And FELS is always trying to provide you with information and services and products to help make your HR department more effective and to give you more time to be a farmer. So how can we help you and what do we do that can be helpful to you? Well, we can provide you with information to help you be a better employer and to hopefully be an employer of choice in your community. That's important because the days of cheap and plentiful agricultural labor are gone and they're not coming back. And farmers have to compete in the community for employees like every other employer has to do. Our FELS newsletter, which we publish every month, and I just put the finishing touches on the September newsletter, includes all of the news that farm employers need to know every month. Our website, which is brand new, just launched about a month ago at www.fels.net, includes regular postings of regular updates on news issues that are important to farm employers. And I'd urge you, even if you don't have a user account, even if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, please be sure to check several times a week because I'm posting something almost every day. And FELS e-News is a free weekly e-newsletter that I send out every Sunday morning at 6 o'clock that sort of gathers up all the latest news off the website and puts it in your email inbox every Sunday morning. So it'll be at the top of your inbox when you get ready to do whatever you're going to do on Sunday or Monday. It'll be right there for you to be able to have a look at and try to figure out if you need to follow up on some of that stuff. FELS newsletter subscribers receive some benefits of real value. Christina was mentioning that Farm Bureau members get a $100 discount on a FELS newsletter subscription. That's $450 instead of $550. And newsletter subscribers get 10% off selected FELS merchandise, free access to the FELS employer hotline, which, to be honest, is me. I answer a lot of phone calls. I've been on the phone for a couple hours today already, trying to help people understand how to fix problems and do things they need to do to going forward. And our FELS Group Legal Services Program, which is an hour of free legal service every year and discounted rates for newsletter subscribers with our partner firm, Barsamian and Moody in Fresno. You might have heard about Barsamian and Moody. They've been in this space for 50 years. And they're also handling a lot of litigation on behalf of some of the employers who have found themselves in a tough situation with card check petitions with the UFW trying to unionize them. So how else can FELS help you? Well, we have a lot of products that can help you be in full compliance and be a better employer. Our laminated employment posters and notices books include all of the federal and state postings that farm employers are required to make, which, by the way, is more than the dry cleaner on Main Street or even the grocery store or even a Walmart out at the big Walmart complex at the edge of town. So we have a lot of stuff we have to post. When I first got here, we had 2 laminated posters. Now we're up to 5 laminated posters, and we're able to put about 3 of those into a book so that you can post that on a nail or on a string. Hopefully save yourself a little space and make that a little bit more portable. That's kind of our flagship product, and we sell lots of those posters every year when we update them in January for the upcoming year. Our FELS HR Compliance Manual is another, I think, pretty important and helpful product for agricultural employers. It'll include things like your injury and illness prevention program, your heat illness prevention program, your respirator program, and a raft of other hiring, termination, and training resources in a single source, all designed to be in one book so that you can find it easily. You can have template forms to help you record when you do trainings and when you do other things like that, and give you a handy place to be able to store them so that when somebody from Kalosha comes rolling up your driveway in their government issued Prius, or I guess these days it's a government issued Tesla, you'll be able to find all that information quickly and easily and show them that you're one of the employers that's trying to do things the right way. Another important product that I think we do, that I know we do a lot of, and I think it's important, is our standard form and custom employee handbooks. We have a standard form handbook for smaller employers and for seasonal employers, and custom handbooks for employers who employ more than about 25 employees or so. There's no requirement for you to have an employee handbook in the law, but there are a lot of legal mandates like civil rights legislation and anti-discrimination regulations that require you to promulgate a compliant policy to your employees to demonstrate that you're one of those people who are trying to be in compliance with the law. That's important because that's a specific legal mandate in California civil rights law and civil rights regulation. So you're required to have that. And if you're going to do that, you might as well have the full handbook where you can do things like set out the rules of the road for what your expectations are for your employees, standards of conduct so that you can communicate to your employees what you expect of them and what they might do that would cause you to decide that you need to terminate them. Setting out those rules of the road can put you in a position to be able to defend a termination as a clean termination because you treated your employees fairly and impartially and complied with all of the many laws that go along with employment and termination and negative personnel actions that you're prohibited from taking against employers under California law and under federal law. A more recent product that we have created is our Supervisor's Handbook on Labor Relations. You probably heard about the card check law passed 2 years ago. The Supervisor's Handbook is a handy instructional tool and a reference guide to help you keep from being unionized and to help you keep from being hit with unfair labor practices, so you understand what you can and can't do. If there is any part of state government right now that's probably more active, maybe not more active than Cal OSHA, but they're getting there, is going to be the Agricultural Labor Relations Board. They are bootstrapping state prohibitions on what are called unfair labor practices for things like not providing water close enough to where people are working. When those employees ask for water, that's considered to be a concerted protected activity, which is specifically protected under California Agricultural Labor Relations law. So knowing what you can and can't do and how you can talk to employees and how you can deal with these issues to keep from getting in trouble that way is something that's very important for you to be able to do. Another one of our really important products, I think, are FELS training videos on issues like heat illness, general ag safety, shop safety, and so on and so forth. A training video as opposed to a sit-down training where you're walking someone through, say, something like one of our tailgate safety training sheets that we publish with every issue of our monthly newsletter, can change up your training, make it more interesting to your employees, and make it more likely that they're actually going to absorb the safety information that you're trying to communicate to them. Another important activity that FELS has been doing for many years now has been our FELS labor management consultants. I have 4 of them, one in Salinas, one in Fresno, one in Madera, and one in Temecula. And they work directly on farms and ranches with our clients every day to be advisors and assistants that can help them solve problems before those problems start to become expensive. All 4 of my guys are bilingual and bicultural. They all have experience with farm workers and in supervisory positions with large ag production companies. So they understand the relationship between farmers and farm workers from both sides and both ends. And they understand what motivates both sides of it. They understand what it's like to be an employer and what it's like to have to make a profit, make a payroll, be able to return value to a shareholder in a for-profit business, and what it takes to be able to create jobs, while they also understand what the motivations are for farm employees and what they want. And a lot of times it boils down simply to respect and impartial treatment, and being able to understand that their work is valued by their employer beyond simply what they're being paid. Our FLCs also do a lot of other important things. They're qualified to provide important supervisor and employee trainings like first aid and CPR training, tractor and forklift safety training, heat illness prevention training, sexual harassment and bullying training. And what's interesting about these guys is they're all about my age, maybe a little bit older, and they have the ability to be able to look at a newly minted supervisor. The way I always like to describe it is to put their arms around the shoulder of that newly minted supervisor and be able to say, you might want to try to do it this way because I had 20 years of experience supervising farm workers, and the approach you're taking right now is just not going to work. And in fact, it's probably going to create problems for you at a later time. RLMCs can be a resource of information for the newest regulatory requirements. We have staff meetings every quarter where I brief them up on what's new with the regulatory agencies, what new things the legislature has passed, that are all things that are going to wind up affecting agricultural employers, including our newsletter subscribers, our clients, and our customers. And all of them have decades of experience managing agricultural employees. I think that's very important that they understand what it's like to actually try to manage agricultural employees. So let me give you an example of a recent example of FELS in action. One of the things we try to do because of the advent of card check, one of the things I'm trying to do is to try to help our constituents, our clients, our customers find ways to be able to educate their employees and help them understand what the implications of card check are. So earlier this year, after a grower in North San Diego County received a card check petition from UFW through the Agricultural Labor Relations Board, FEL spent $20,000 to develop and deploy a social media campaign aimed at the agricultural areas of North San Diego County to educate agricultural employees that signatures on documents, petitions, postcards, whatever, will be used by the UFW as an indication of interest in being represented by a union. And all the union has to do in that case is to get 50% plus one half of your peak seasonal employment, turn proof of that interest among your employees into the ALRB, and the ALRB will declare that your employees have chosen to be represented by them and certify them as the collective bargaining representative for your employees. This is completely new from the old union election procedure that we've had for many, many years. And it's important that we educate agricultural employees about this so they understand that signing a union card is not an indication of interest in an election at some future time. That signing a card now actually is voting in an election. And you can bet that the union is not going to tell them that. We've even received reports that of purloined employer training records that have been used as proof of interest in unionization by labor unions. So our campaign targeted users of Spanish language news, information, entertainment, and music delivered via social media. It works through putting a what's called a media access code on their devices, their phones, their tablets, their laptops, so that when they access social media, our messages will be delivered to them through the social media platforms that they access. Our video and audio impressions were delivered to users' devices a total of over 1 million times in April of 2024. Those interactions and impressions led to over 1,000 visits to our landing page, and the audio impressions performed extremely well. In those cases, 96% of our delivered audio impressions were what are considered to be completed listens. That is, that the listener did not navigate away before the end of the delivery of that audio message. Here's the script translated in English that we used in our Spanish language social media delivery in North San Diego County. And you can see that it's very strong on the message that we work hard. I work hard to support my family, and I don't need to have a labor union taking 3% of everything I earn in order to pay the salary of a union boss in Sacramento or Delano or someplace else that's not where I live and doesn't understand what I need to do to be able to support my family. And that's why I'm not going to sign a union card. I've had some people tell me that it might not be such a great idea to be educating ag employees about this, and some of you might be thinking that. I think a lot of people think that maybe ag employees don't know about what's going on with card check and with UFW. I think that's very short-sighted. I think they know exactly what's going on. They've probably been approached on a number of occasions by non-governmental organizations, by the labor unions directly, and by other parties to sign documents. More often than not, what those documents are purport to be an application for the $600 debit card that the U.S. Department of Agriculture distributed through organizations like the United Farm Workers for COVID income loss relief. And what they're doing is they're taking that information and converting it to be used on union campaign, union petitions to the Agricultural Labor Relations Board to represent those unions, that represent those employees, I should say. So that is exactly what happened, or is alleged to have happened, with employees of Wonderful Nurseries in the Central Valley, where about half of the employees for whom the UFW turned in petitions claimed that their information was used for a purpose that they didn't understand and didn't agree with, and that certification of the UFW as the collective bargaining representative for those employees should be revoked by the Agricultural Labor Relations Board. Right now, Wonderful Nurseries is suing in Superior Court in Fresno County on grounds that the way that the card check system works, they are effectively obliged to break the law in order to be able to have their side heard by a neutral fact finder in a dispute between a union and the employer. And they're alleging that that's a violation of the constitutional guarantees for due process. They have a pretty good chance, I think, of winning at the Superior Court level. What happens at appellate court is anybody's guess. But what's interesting about that whole situation is that there's only been one card check petition filed since Wonderful filed their lawsuit in Superior Court in Kern County. So it seems to be tying the UFW up, at least for a little while. But in the meantime, I think the one thing that ag employers can do to help themselves is going to be to reach out and educate agricultural employees about the nature of the things that UFW and their allied non-governmental organizations are doing to gather information that they're going to convert for purposes other than what they're telling ag employees who they're gathering that information from, what they intend to use it for. So that's the end of my presentation, Christina. I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody on the Zoom would like to ask.
Thank you so much, Bryan. We appreciate it. Are there any questions at this time? And for further information, please feel free to reach out to the Napa Farm Bureau office. We can get you directed over to Bryan Little, and his information is on the screen as well right now if you'd like to take that down. Again, thank you, Bryan, so much for being here and presenting to us today. And thank you, everyone, for being a Farm Bureau member. We appreciate your membership and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.